Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar, How to Plan and Track Your Channel Promotional Strategy, sponsored by Blackhawk Engagement Solutions and presented by Craig DeWolf, RVP Channel Strategist. Craig brings with him 30 years of experience in both B2B and B2C channel program management for notable companies such as AT&T, HP, Clorox, Kraft, and many more. Working both through vendor and agency roles, Craig has successfully helped companies such as these improve the performance of their channel programs. And now, I will turn the presentation over to Craig.
Thank you very much, Cindy. Good morning, evening, or afternoon to everybody, depending on where you are located in the world. As a channel manager, I think today is going to be your lucky day. You're going to be walking away from this session with some ideas on how to better align your promotional strategy against your objectives, as well as better ways to track the money that you're spending on channel incentive programs. So, just what do we mean by that? As a channel manager, let's look at the core challenges that we're looking to address today. The first one, how do I drive mind share? So you have your competitors as well as a host of other suppliers pinging your channel partners, all of them clamoring for more mind share, all of them having new programs. How do you get your disproportionate share? So these are some of the challenges we're going to be addressing today, that being the first one. The second one, what is the right mix of incentives? So, let's talk a little bit about incentives. You really have two ways to manage channel partners, with the carrot or the stick. And most of us choose the carrot. Ways to influence the behavior of your channel partners to really perform the way that you expect them to do. As a result, a plethora of incentive programs are made available to channel partners depending on who they are or what they are. So for instance, whether it's a reward at an individual level to a sales channel sales rep, whether you're rewarding the company for hitting quarterly sales goals through a rebate kind of program, whether it's a discount on deal registration, whether you are reimbursing for advertising or marketing activities. These are all incentive types of programs that many of us channel marketers are using in various capacity. So what is the right mix of incentive programs in order to achieve the goals you want to achieve? The next challenge we're going to be tackling today is, how do I know if my programs are working? Really, what sort of ROI are you getting from those programs? And finally, how much should I be spending overall on these various kinds of programs? So these are the topics we're going to be talking about today. And of course, with it being seasonally appropriate with our friends the turkey here and Thanksgiving coming up on us, as channel marketers, we've all had this dilemma. And the thin red line that you see on the bottom, there's a movie made of it. There's a lot of connotations about the thin red line, most of them not being good. But as our turkey friends are finding out here, if you don't have the answer to the question that your boss or superiors might be asking, your neck goes on that line to validate any answers or any points of view that you might come up with. Well, today we're hoping to address this so the next time you don't feel at risk, as our friends the turkeys do here moving forward. So today we're going to be breaking this presentation up into 4 basic steps. Who is Blackhawk Engagement Solutions, and why are we even qualified to be talking about something like this? The second is, what is your strategic direction to improve your incentive program effectiveness? Third, putting those strategies to practice to optimize your spending efficiency. And finally, assessing the ROI of your programs. Everything we're going to be talking about today is going to be on one of these 2 white papers. Now, we're putting this screen up at the end of the presentation, so you'll have a second opportunity to capture the URLs that are presented here. But I just want you to know, if you can't take copious notes, most of the content, and in fact a little bit more in depth than we will be covering today, are going to be in one of these two white papers. So the first section that we talked about, who is Blackhawk Engagement Solutions? Well, as I like to talk to people, engagement is essentially our middle name. We are a relatively new brand. However, we are a result of a merger between several different companies in the incentive and engagement space last year, as owned by Blackhawk Networks. As a result, we're a global leader in engagement solutions for channel, consumer, and employee types of programs that enterprises would utilize to motivate their different audiences. I work solely for the channel group, and therefore we are going to be focusing on how to optimize your channel incentive and engagement strategies today. We essentially have three legs of our stool: the special channel engagement platform that works on a global level and can be quickly configured to manage a variety of different kinds of programs. We have comprehensive services to help you design your incentive strategy as well as administer your programs, and we are unparalleled in our reward and payment capabilities on a global scale, whether you are motivating or paying individual rewards or corporate level rebates. We have a broad range of prepaid solutions, travel merchandise, or what I call cash equivalency in check, ACH, or EFT to be able to pay entities on a global scale. So we tailor these solutions based on unique client needs. Okay, so with that as a bit of a background, let's go into some of the trends that are happening that are really setting up why the strategies and the topics that you're going to learn today are very relevant and make sense. First, as vendors, you're not rising to the challenge. You expect your partners to really be loyal to you and engage with you, but it's not happening. They're not going to your partner portals necessarily per Forrester. In average, engagement on a per participant level is in the low teens, which is to say that only a very small percentage of your channel community are being engaged in your partner portals. And they're trying to limit engagement to what they need done. They don't surf your website and learn about things that are new. And I know this is probably counter to what a lot of you are thinking, but when you think about the number and sheer depth of vendors they have to deal with, along with their own problems in running a business, they're only going to go to your partner portal to get the business done that they need to get done. You're also, generally speaking, not very innovative in your approaches. A lot of the same old programs, despite the advancements in go-to-market solutions uniquely for channel programs. You don't have the budget or resources to try something new, and too focused on day-to-day programs to really trying to break down the walls of what's been happening before and moving to something new. As a result, the marketing programs you're offering are often perceived as tactical and as a necessity to meet comp status. I can't tell you how many times that we go from client to client and they say, oh yeah, we have an MDF program, or oh yeah, we've got a rewards program, but we have it just because our competitors do and not because we have any strategic plan for those going forward. So that is really disheartening to hear, considering how much money everybody is spending on this. And we'll be talking about that in a second. So what is the opportunity? The opportunity is that your channel program, and particularly these incentive programs, can be a competitive advantage and not a cost of doing business. But the challenge really is, excuse me, how do you do more with what you have? For most of us, our budgets aren't growing. So really, what you have to do is figure out how to make your budgets work harder, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. And the principles that we're going to be talking about today will work regardless of whether you're a large company or a small company, whether you have a mass market commodity-based product or whether you have a cutting-edge niche product that is focused on a very narrow audience, whether you're a category leader or a laggard, whether you sell products or services, whether you have a long or short sales cycle. So how they're applied might be different depending on your combination of go-to-market environments that we have here, but the principles all apply. And we would be glad to talk with you individually about how these practices apply to your situation. So first, let's start out with how to define your incentive strategy for maximum effectiveness. And this is really key because one of the things you're going to be hearing over and over is that your incentive strategy should align with your overall go-to-market strategy in terms of what you are trying to do. Now, how do we do that? One of the things that Forrester has been talking about recently is the idea of incentive engineering, shifting the incentive focus not just from sales in terms of post-sale rewards, but rather focusing on the behaviors that result in more sales. So getting your channel partners to perform better overall in a pre-sales environment so that by extension, more sales comes out of that effort overall, mutually benefiting both of you. So this way the focus is on these types of pre-sales behaviors which are easier to track individually, and their collective impact is what improves overall sales performance on an ongoing basis. So use the incentives to remove the friction in the sales process to streamline overall revenue management. So what we want to do is discover where are the barriers in terms of generating more sales in the channel, and that's where we want to focus our incentive strategy going forward. So what does that mean as we look at the various behaviors? When we talk with our clients, this is a list of the types of behaviors that they feel directly results in additional sales that they wish their partners would perform more often. So this, by all means, is not a complete list, but it is a representative list. Hopefully, all of you out there have a good idea of what the activities are that your channel partners should be performing and that you want them to perform. So what we did is we took a list from our clients and we did a survey, our own proprietary survey on a national level from across a variety of industries and talked about or tried to assess how much, to what degree are you incenting for these types of behaviors, and how important are these types of behaviors to you in terms of driving additional business. And really the results are quite interesting, and it doesn't matter what this slide says here as much as how these behaviors align with your own go-to-market practice and your own go-to-market goals. So what I want you to do is take a step back and take stock of the behaviors you want your channel partners to perform in order to help you achieve more sales. And that list might be a little bit different across different product lines you may have. Some product lines might be a little bit more, let's say, volume-based, where the sales is driven by the consumer. Others might be more value-based, where it takes a little bit longer sales cycle and a lot more assistance from your channel partners to drive that sale. Your strategy might be different, and we'll be talking about that later, but take a look at the behaviors you want to drive, and also relate those to how much you're really spending on incentive programs towards those individual behaviors.
All the ones that fall in this category, you might want to increase your incentive investment on those behaviors. Here, you might want to find a little bit more focus on those activities, maybe not spend as much, or to focus your spending on only those particular components that drive the most impact. Here, clearly you want to scale back, because if you're spending a lot of money here and you're not getting the return you are looking for, they don't impact sales, this would be a good place to divert some of the money that you might already be spending, as well as here as well. Here, we would focus only on those investments that might achieve our broader go-to-market goals, but they may not immediately result in incremental sales. So I would encourage you to go through this exercise on your own. So when we look at this list of behaviors that we have been talking about on the last couple slides, I recompiled them into two groups, pre-sales enablement as well as post-sales rewards. So this is the same list of activities that we talked about before, just put into the two groups. So the question becomes, how many programs and promotions do I really need to get all of these programs, or to get good coverage across all of these activities? And the answer is 3 programs is all it takes. And you can influence all of these activities with some combination of individual rewards programs, promotional allowances, better known as MDF or co-op programs, and headquarter style rebates. By packaging your program, one of these 3 programs, to cover the activities you want, this is all you need. You don't need more programs than this. Now, it's true that you might need to package the program different for different channel segments, and that is really to be expected, because the behaviors you might want to drive from unique channel segments might vary from segment to segment. But you really don't need any more than 3 programs to cover this broad spectrum of behaviors that you're trying to influence. So when we talk about pre-sales enablement versus post-sale rewards, how should you allocate your dollars between the two? Well, again, this depends on what your focus is in terms of your products. Is it a niche product? Is it a mass market product in terms of market sizing? Is your sales cycle long or short? Is the category mature, or is it early stage? Is the information exchange needed? And what I mean about information exchange needed here, we're talking about how much sales assistance is needed in order to conduct the transaction. When you walk into a supermarket, you really don't need any sales interaction to choose between Progresso or Campbell's soup. You have all the information you need either before you walk in the store or on the labels themselves. But if you're buying, let's say, life insurance, you might need a little bit more information and guidance from your sales counselor, and that's exactly what we're talking about here. The next line, partner community. Are these mature partners that have been with you a while, or do you have a very dynamic community, or launching new products and a new sales cycle to your partner community that you need them onboarded and trained? Product differentiated. Is your product highly differentiated, or is it commoditized? So those instances are those check boxes where you would focus your investment on pre-sales enablement versus post-sale rewards. So those are really the criteria for choosing between the two. So how much should you be spending overall? Well, that's always a $64,000 question, and our friends at Serious Decisions put this out in 2013 based on an average of all the clients that they have in terms of the level of spending on their channel programs and how that level of spending is split between program personnel and the program costs themselves. So this should give you a pretty good indication of how big your overall budget should be, as well as how your current budget benchmarks against other peers. Okay, so now that we've talked about our strategy, the kind of things that we are going to incent, how do we put these strategies to work in terms of a best practice environment? First, and very important, is to define KPIs and goals for each of the behaviors you want to drive. So tie those into the overall program objectives and your go-to-market objectives. Understand where that source of data is coming from, and look at it across who should be registered or who should be participating in these programs, what segments, what are the activities that you want to drive and sources of data, what are the pre-program baselines. So you theoretically, since you know the behaviors you want to drive, since you already are capturing a lot of this data in your existing system, you want to establish the baselines of performance so you know whether to improve those 10, 20, 30, or 40% through the results that your new program is going to be driving. And the other important component is to consider the economic, competitive, and environmental trends that are going to be either working with you or working against you in the launch of these new programs. So these are all things to consider, and clearly when you define your KPIs as well as the goals against those KPIs. Second is that you might want to consider a pilot program to prove the concept of the worthiness of your program. This is something that we recommend. We also have a white paper available to help you plan a pilot program. But very often, particularly when you're putting together new incentive programs, marketers are struggling with how much should I be investing in this program. If it really takes off, I could be spending a lot. If it doesn't take off, I want to understand why it's not taking off. Well, in both of those circumstances, pilot programs can help you test the waters essentially by helping you build a budget by extrapolating from performing the program on a small percentage of your partner base and applying it to the broader percentage of your partner base, as well as to help you understand what some of the administrative challenges might be, either administering the program once partners are involved, but just as important is to get your partner community really involved in the program and embracing the program. So we recommend very strongly that you use a pilot program. Third, and I mentioned this earlier, is to consider the unique characteristics of the different channel segments that you might have and the products that they have. They each have unique go-to-market strategies of their own. Your products might as well. And as you segment your channels, you might, and understand the uniqueness of how they go to market, you might want to shift your spending or the requirements of the program to the unique needs of each segment and or to the unique life cycle of that segment or partners within that segment. Newer partners might need a little bit more assistance in marketing through MDF or training in terms of how we might want to influence their behavior than those of more mature partners. Next, keep it simple. There are a couple reasons why programs fail, and being too cumbersome is by far the biggest reason why programs fail. So everyone benefits when you keep a program simple, and it's always better to err on the keeping a program easy to use and easy to participate in. So consider automated claiming and validation of any rewards you might be interested, because they're triggered already from third-party systems in many cases. Minimize approval steps. There should be no more than 2 approval steps. Reduce reward or payment turnaround time. Nothing is more frustrating for your partners than to do everything they have to do, but then have to wait months and months and months to get paid on an activity that they ran. All of your channel partners are very sensitive about cash flow, and to the extent you can honor it is going to work to your favor in terms of building channel loyalty and getting them engaged in future programs. And finally, make sure to have a clear inquiry path for prompt issue resolution. So this whole area falls under the concept of ease of doing business, abbreviated here as EODB. Ease of doing business per Forrester is the second largest driver of partner loyalty behind the actual value of your product itself. So clearly it has a lot more to do than managing your promotions and programs, and ease of doing business really transcends the overall effort that you have with your partners, but your incentive programs are clearly a big part of it. The next biggest reasons why programs fail is lack of communication. As we talked about earlier, you send out an email, you put out something on your partner portal, and yet your channel partners aren't embracing your program. And what you should be doing is thinking well beyond that in terms of getting your partners to be engaged with your promotions and programs. So today we're seeing our clients using not only online communication but offline communications as well, through the use of mailers and welcome packs, as well as one-on-one communication conducted between your CAMs, channel account managers, and their accounts, or focused outbound telemarketing. So really, communications, getting your channel partners engaged in your program, is very key. I have done several different promotion follow-ups on behalf of our clients in the past, and there have been several must-have participate instances where these partners would have had to have been involved in a promotion to be successful, but they weren't engaged in the program, and as it turns out, it was because they didn't even know the program existed. So this is something that's very important, and along with keeping the administration simple, the point before this, are really the 2 big things that, if you do it right, are really going to be the biggest contributors to the success of your program, all other things being equal. And finally, keep your program fresh and relevant. Learn and evolve on an ongoing basis. So update your program quarterly or annually, certainly no less often than annually, to align with how your own go-to-market objectives might change. The use of overlays like a gamification or some short-term event helps to drive re-engagement, not only with your channel at large, but what you might want to do is also get people who haven't submitted claims in a while or haven't participated in your programs in a while to re-engage. You can always make your program richer. So make sure you have budget set aside to do these kinds of overlay programs from time to time to keep it fresh. So those are really the 6 key components that will help you bring your newfound strategic goals and program structure to life. So if you follow these 6 basic principles, you will find that your program overall will become much more effective. Now you've had your program in place for a while, and now you want to avoid the turkey syndrome that we showed earlier by being in a position where you can answer your bosses now when they ask you, so how well is the program working versus goal? Should we spend more money on it? Well, there's really 3 ways to do that, and we'll be covering each of the 3 ways today. The first way is to look at the performance of your program versus the KPIs that you've assigned. If you've been following our strategies so far, what you have done up till now is identified the behaviors you want to influence. You know what the baseline for those behaviors are in terms of the relative frequency that they had been occurring before you've run this promotion. Now you're into this promotion and you have an ability to compare the differences between the two because you've already identified the source of data in terms of tracking those programs. So this is really about looking at the impact that your performance has had on those KPIs, and as a result, it is often the easiest to track because you've identified them as important. The system was already in place to track them, and they're already accessible. So therefore, it becomes much easier to report on the impact against these KPIs. The second way is through match and control methodology, or often called test and control methodology. This is essentially the scientific approach that we all used in high school, where we had a single variant that was applied to a test and control group of population, whatever that population might be. In this particular context, it is your channel partners. So what we would have there in this case is the single variant would be your promotion or your program or this incentive event that we are running that it would be given to a test group of channel partners that is very similar to a control group of channel partners. And what we're going to be doing in this context is tracking the impact of the promotion versus the control group. This is often the best way to evaluate sales of a given program or promotion between the two, because that is the ultimate end result of the program. So how you do it is to create a single variant test between 2 groups of channel partners where you apply the promotion, and you can do this with your pilot program, which is one of the reasons that pilot programs are so successful in this context. You offer the pilot program to a very small percentage of your overall channel community and look at the impact that the program has on that channel community. And that would help you consider the impact of the program across both pre- and post-program periods. So might be tougher to comprehend, but this slide will hopefully bring it to life. It is an example of a real-life situation where we looked at a test group, which is our group on the blue line, which fortunately is on top. Our control group is on the green line, and the red line are purchasing non-partners or very much indicative of general market conditions. And the other thing that we're taking into account here is that what you notice overall is there are external factors. In this particular case, it was the economy that helped drive overall sales down by virtue of the fact that all 3 lines are lower in the post-program period, as shown to the right of the blue line, than they were in the pre-program period. So if we didn't do a test and control, we might have said, oh, this program is indeed a failure. But because we did a test and control, we saw that the impact of the promotion was actually much more favorable and significantly favorable relative to the other two groups. And therefore, the lift between the two is really the impact of this promotion during that period. So that's why the test and control group works out so well as a scientific way to really understand the impact of a given program or promotion. Third, and very important, I believe, is to look at the subjective or perceptive impact of the program. And this is very key to give you insights about how to evolve the program on an ongoing basis, as well as, and as we know, perception is reality. If your channel partners didn't perceive the program to be effective for them, they might not be likely to participate in any future events when you evolve the program over time. So really getting the perceptions of your channel group of the program from their perspective is really kind of key. So whether this is done through a formal survey or a qualitative interview, both can be effective, but in both cases you would be in a situation where you would learn more about the program to help you evolve it over time. So now that we've talked about the three different ways of looking at this, at the metrics for the program, really our recommendation is you should be using all of them if you can. In many cases, it might not be practical to use all of them, but use whatever you can of the three and don't rely on any one if you can help it in terms of evaluating the ROI of your program. All three have unique and different merits. So thank you very much today, and as I said earlier at the top of this presentation, most of the principles that we've talked about are explained in the two white papers that you see here on your screen. Log on, get them. There's more detail in the white papers, and we look forward to working with you. If you have any questions, please reach out and contact us, and we'll be glad to help elaborate on any of the concepts talked about today. Thank you very much.
This concludes our webinar. For more information about building channel incentive programs, be sure to check out our white papers as displayed on the screen. Download information for both these papers are displayed on the screen. Thanks again. We hope you found this webinar helpful. Please